Welcome back to From the Cheap Seats here on TV Cogeco. If you're just joining us, my name is Bill Glisky from Inquini.ca, your host. And we have the panel with us for the next 15 minutes more or so. We've been talking a lot of local politics, Belleville-centric a little bit. And by the way, while we were on break there, we solved all the problems with downtown, so don't worry about that. We'll be filing a report.
Trust me.
Do you want to go there? Do you want to go there next?
No, we'll stick with Crampy.
We'll save it. We'll stick with Crampy. But before we get to Mr. Cramp, I'll introduce the guys at the table. From Accelerated Media, Jeff Keegan. From Starboard Communications, Cool 100, Paul Ferguson. From the City of Belleville, Mr. Mark Coyle. And thank you again, gentlemen. It's great to be back doing this again after a several-month hiatus. It's like riding a bicycle. We're just right back into it now after a shaky start. And the phone number, 779-6830. If you have a comment, question, you want to get involved in the conversation, give us a shout. We're happy to hear from you. Talk about whatever you want to talk about, even stuff we've already talked about. While we're waiting, though, some interesting news coming out of the area north of Belleville in the last little while. It involves an old friend of ours, at least in Belleville, and that is former MP Darrell Cramp has announced he will seek the nomination for the Progressive Conservative Party to be the MPP of Hastings, Lennox, Addington riding, so the Thurlow and parts north of where we are now. It's an interesting thing to see a guy go from being an MP to being an MPP.
Maybe.
Darrell, maybe. That's right. He hasn't won it yet.
He's got to vote first.
Mr. Cramp has said he is very concerned about the state of the province. He is very excited by Patrick Brown's plans for the party and wants to be involved. I will take Mr. Cramp at his word. The flip side of that, pardon my language, my throat breaking there. The flip side of that is, if you are somebody who looks at the glass half empty, it looks like political opportunism. It looks like Darrell's saying, I got an easy gig here. I can coast in and being an MPP. I've got my MP pension. I've got all that, and I can get to do this gig for the next little while. I suspect it's somewhere in the middle. Mark, you always look at these things with not quite rose-colored glasses, but.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I've known Darrell a long time. I wouldn't say I'm a friend, don't know him well. But I don't believe I've ever seen Darrell coast. You know, when he's representing people, he takes it seriously. I mean, he goes to a number of events. He fights for the region. He's doing his thing, and I think he earned his pension. And to be perfectly honest, I don't fly a particular color. I really go with who I think has the best opportunity for success for our region. That's what I'm after. I mean, a win here, and I will change colors if necessary to get a win here, because the municipal government doesn't run with colors, right. And I've been there a long time. But that being said, Darrell works hard, and if he can bring success to this region by running, then I'm all for it. I mean, we've had some real challenges with the party that's in right now. I mean, historically, there have been some years where they did a great job. Right now, they're kind of killing us on hydro, and they know it. And there doesn't seem to be a way to resolve it that is satisfactory, not only to you and I, but to the businesses that are employing the people here in this province. And that is a serious worry. Not that anyone else can step in and fix it, but you know, it certainly couldn't hurt.
And I agree with everything you said about Darrell being a hard worker. But let's flip that around, or let's carry on with the side of that, which is, how much does this region gain by having Darrell Cramp in there for 4 years, possibly 8, which would make him almost 80, but that's fine, he's in good shape, as opposed to getting somebody else in there who might be younger, more dynamic, bring something different to the table. Because I seriously think that at this point, the Conservatives could probably, you know, run a well-mannered guerrilla and win the riding, because the Liberals are extremely unpopular. That will change when the Liberals actually get a candidate significantly. But at this point, I think it's the Conservatives riding to be won right now. Do the Conservatives need, I guess the question is, do the Conservatives need to run Darrell Cramp in that riding? Or can they bring somebody in who's going to be the next Darrell Cramp?
Give me Darrell Cramp now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to throw a sports analogy at you, but Buck Showalter lost the play-in game, the wild card game, managing that ball game like it was a regular season game in the middle of June. If the Conservatives believe, and I tend to agree with a lot of what Mark said, I like Darrell, and I think the respect Darrell's earned on a federal stage is going to help things get done, should he be elected at Queen's Park. So give me the best guy now.
How good has then become for the region if you're looking at a blue from sort of the southern tip to however far north and east and west of Darrell Cramp and Todd Smith, who has been very frank about the fact he learned a lot about how he conducts himself as MPP from Darrell Cramp. I mean, Jeff, you're a political guy. That seems like a pretty good combination of people to have for a pretty big area if you want to get things done in Queen's Park.
Yeah, I think you're setting. Let's go with the assumption from when the Darrell Cramp wins it and Todd Smith does, then you're sending two guys that are clearly on the same page for our region to Queen Park together, and that certainly can't be a bad thing.
But I think too, there are two guys, because if Darrell, let's say again, the case unfolds that Darrell wins that northern riding. Some of the issues up in the northern end of that riding are much different than what we're sitting and dealing with around this table. So yes, they work well together, I think is a good way to look at that. Two guys that work well together, but may very well be working for, two different sets of issues.